Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Shama in Cali, Colombia, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Cali, Colombia. Oh, man, I feel guilty asking Bobby the weather. She told me it's negative 16 back home where me and Mara live. I don't even know what negative 16 looks like.
Wow.
It's like colder than your walk-in refrigerator.
It's colder than my freezer.
It's colder than your freezer. I'm sorry. That note, we're going to the country club today. There's a country club they belong to, and they let us go there, and we're going to chant japa there. How are you, Kaustubha?
I'm happy to be. I feel great. We had our little wound up the retreat last night.
We've got the remnants of this Wisdom of the Sages students left. A bunch already left, and this is sort of like a smaller group now, and we're all like dispersing, and it's a little sad. But it was great.
But every time we get together and do one of these retreats, trainings, it's kind of like the family kind of grows. The connections grow, So although it's sad that everybody's going home, or most people going home, but you feel like further connected, and we're going to be spending time together in the future.
We'll get together then, Dad. We'll have a good time then. Ever heard that? You ever listen to that song? That's a sad song, man.
Yeah. That's one of those father-son things.
Father-son thing where the father neglected the son, and then and then at the end, the last verse, he's like, "Oh yeah, well I'm a little busy, Dad. The kids are in school, but it's sure nice talking to you." That hurt.
That's kind of like what you just did to me, or when I said we got to line up some picnics right before the show, and
I said I'm busy.
I said I'm already booked.
Yeah, I'm already
for the whole summer.
Down there.
That was a Harry Chapin moment.
You just got to go Cats in the Cradle. Cats in the Cradle, Rock.
Right.
Hey, why don't you tell the people what happened yesterday? We had a peculiar, strange,
what happened?
Spike.
Oh yeah, we had this. Hey, it's far out. Yesterday was our biggest day in the history of Wisdom of the Sages for downloads of our audio.
And we can't figure out why. We had 16,000 plus downloads.
Oh, yeah, about 16,300 people downloaded yesterday. And you know what? The spike is continuing. Today, we're already like over 8,000, like well over 8,000.
It's already 8,000 today. We didn't even do the podcast today. I don't get this.
Maybe we should ask, like, if you tuned in yesterday, which was Thursday, the 20th? Yesterday was Thursday the 20th. If you tuned in Thursday the 20th for the first time, let us know what brought you over there. What happened? We need to know what happened.
Yeah, we can't figure this out. It's beyond our technical brain. We're like algorithms. We're like, I don't even know what that word means.
Statistics,
stats. But anyway, that means like in the last 24 hours, 23,000 people have heard the Bhagavatam, or at least downloaded the Bhagavatam.
There have been that many downloads. Now, some people may have downloaded more than once, but yeah, something like that. In people that are downloading today may have downloaded. Not necessarily that many people, but that many downloads.
Anyway, it's good. It's a good thing.
It's encouraging.
It's
Yeah,
a very
I love
positive thing. Imagine
Yeah.
if he came back to the temple one day and said, "Yeah, we just distributed 23,000 books."
it. That's like giving a talk to like Madison Square Garden practically. It's like what,
And
17,000 for a
Madison Square,
basketball game?
no, that's big. Madison
No,
Square,
17, 18,000.
much bigger.
Merrick, get on that. It's a
Madison
little bit
Square
bigger, not
Garden,
much.
it's more than 17,000. Shea
Capacity for
Stadium
a
was
basketball game.
50,000.
Yeah, that's a stadium, not an arena, Bubba.
Oh, good point.
Mary's on it. She'll let us know.
Hey, I gotta. Before I go to the Nugget, I got some interesting information about.
20,000.
20,000. You see? So not much more.
Not much more. I stand corrected, Kaustubha.
All right.
But the origins, we were trying to, the Sanskrit word for jewel is money.
Right.
So we're trying to figure out if it comes, is that where we get the English word money? So here's what I
Right.
found out.
Okay.
This is from Aaron Eriskinson. He sent me. He said it actually comes from Moneta, which is French for the goddess Juno. And
What comes from Aneta?
money.
Money.
Money. Money.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the goddess Juno is where the original Roman mint was in the temple of Juno.
A mint.
But he says, mint was where they manufacture money,
Yeah.
where they manufacture coins. But he said the Sanskrit for moneta is dhanam, which is where you get the word for wealth, like nadanam, najanam, nasundarim. So there could be some
donation,
connection
dhanam.
still.
Yeah. All right.
We're still not. We need a Sanskrit guy, maybe.
We do. We've always needed a regular Sanskrit person to be here on the show every day. Maybe this year we'll bring that to us. Who knows?
We also want to know. We're gonna hold that about your ahimsa fur, but I got a nugget first.
Oh, fur. You were going to talk about fur today, yeah.
We're gonna talk about fur. Along the way of life, someone must
Hold it. Slow down. Who are we hearing from here, Raghu?
Martin Luther King Jr.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that. I usually say
What's
it at
his
the end.
day on Monday? No, I
know.
thought you usually say it at the beginning. Any case, just wanted
You
to
say
know.
at the beginning. I always say at the end. You always say, "Who's this from?"
I know, because
It's
I
like,
want to
I
focus.
was gonna say
know
it.
who
I was
I'm
gonna
hearing
like
from.
give a ta-da.
Okay,
from
I'm
him.
sorry. You go ahead. Do it your way. Do it your way.
Okay. Anyway, for Martin Luther King, along the way of life, someone must have sense enough and morality enough to cut off the chain of hate. This can
Read it one
only
more
be
time.
done by projecting the. Did you just say hold it?
We got we got a lag going. I thought it was over. Please go ahead and read the whole thing again.
Along the way of life, someone must have sense enough and morality enough to cut off the chain of hate. This can only be done by projecting the ethic of love to the center of our lives.
That sounds, in one sense, that's a definition of bhakti, right? Projecting the ethic of love.
Projecting the ethic of love to the center of our lives.
When
Yeah.
it really reaches the center, right? It means you can forgive.
Yeah. Sometimes we get so angry with a group, a person, a leader, a political party. We get so angry with them and we don't like what they're doing. We don't approve of what they're doing. We don't understand what they're doing, or they're actually doing something problematic. And instead of we start to develop hate, and it starts to become a little self-righteous. And this is what we see again and again in the name of love, in the name of self-betterment, in the name of being more spiritual, in the name of a better, healthier diet. It goes from I'm doing something good to I'm doing something better than they're doing. And they immediately become the others or the outcasts or the boogeymen. And because of it, we create a world of hate, even in the name of self-betterment, because we got it right. We got it together. We figured this out. What the hell is wrong with you? And we see it in diet. People do it. We hate other people with different diets sometimes, or you're not, organic, or you're not raw, you don't shop local, or we do it with politics all the time. It's definitely there in religion. And we need to, the Bhagavatam is about putting on the goggles of Lord Vishnu, the goggles of love, and
You
digging
know
deep.
what
in-
this?
Go,
I'm sorry.
go.
No, go ahead. Digging deep. Yeah. When I hear this, along the way of life, someone must have sense enough and morality enough to cut off the chain of hate. It's and of course the context of this was in the civil rights struggle, where the hate in one sense, right? The animosity in one sense is rational, you know. The way African Americans were being treated, particularly at that time, lynching, police
Right.
departments and whole justice departments, totally racist, and dogs and fire hoses and all of that, it can burn a person, it could create such a deep hatred. And he's saying someone has to have sense enough, someone has to have morality enough to cut this chain of hate, even it may be, rational. This ethic of love is something deeper, and it just makes me think of and maybe people that aren't Americans aren't familiar with this, but there's this whole legend of the Hatfields and the Mccoys,
Yeah.
who are these
Feuding
we call them
families.
hillbillies,
Yeah.
right? They lived up in the mountains in West Virginia and Kentucky
Well,
or
that's
something like that.
Romeo and Juliet's family. What are they?
Montagues.
Thank you. The Montagues and the Capulets.
Yeah, but with these, the point was they were feuding. They were two families that were feuding, and the feud just kept going on and on for generations, where they're just killing each other for no reason. They all felt justified. Well, you killed our relative. Well, you killed that. We only did that because you killed our relative. Well, we only did that because you killed our relative. And sooner or later, someone has to come along and cut off the chain, right? Someone has to have morality enough. Someone has to have sense enough to say, you know what, even it may be rational that I respond with animosity, I'm not going to, because this chain never ends if someone doesn't have sense enough. And so the Bhakti-yogi, they've done exactly what he's saying, or we're meant to do exactly what he's saying, which is projecting the ethic of love into the center. In other words, this is what my life is built on. This is my purpose. This is my dharma, right? Is that I am designed to be an instrument of love. And that means, with that, an instrument of forgiveness, an instrument of tolerance. All of that is necessary. And
We're
otherwise
chain
don't
of
break
hate
these
from
chains.
Helsinki.
What is that? Chain of hate? What do you call
We're
it?
chain of hate from Helsinki.
Okay.
Right? It could be a good death metal band.
It could be. It could be.
Anyway, good. It's a great, beautiful point. Now,
Thank you, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
yeah. Any announcements, Mara, before we dive into the deep nectar nugget pot?
Yep, we have a Bhakti recovery group meeting at 1 p.m. today. And there's still spaces available for the Wisdom of the Sages retreat in Italy in July.
Yeah,
That's
spaces opened up.
big
We
one.
got some extra space. It was really a hit last year. It was wonderful to be in Italy, and it's it's in a when you go to Tuscany, you want to check out these beautiful old estates, and it's in an estate that has turned into a Bhakti ashram temple, and we stay there.
Museum.
And it's great,
Mu-
and it's
It's a museum
and
too, right?
we do all our yoga in this. Oh, actually, we did the yoga outside. It was beautiful, but we there's this massive Mahabharat museum paintings, and it's it's really breathtaking, isn't it? You weren't
can't
there.
wait to
You
see
weren't
it.
there.
Mary's like, I don't know.
It's really great,
Sure
Mara.
it
You would have loved it. I tried to get her to go.
That was back before she was Malibu Mara. She was just like, oh, everybody's there. I'm not there. Now look at her. She's got her cacao there, whatever she's drinking, and
Hot
just
cacao
relaxing.
beverage.
Okay.
All right.
Do you want to announce our guest for Sunday?
Oh yeah, Shri Prahlad's our guest on Sunday. Excited
Shri
for that.
Prahlad is a legend.
Vicky hooked it up. Do you know that? Vicky Kravchenko. They're sitting there in
Excellent.
Cyprus, and she stumbles upon Shri Prahlad, who lives a few blocks away. It was like a Krishna miracle.
They know each other. They go way back.
Do they? Do they? Did I just make that up?
No,
I just
they
make that
do.
up, Vicky. I thought you just ran into him on the street one day.
No. But Shri Prahlad, from his youth, right? He grew up in a Vaishnava family. He attended the Gurukula schools in Vrindavan and in Mayapur. He's been trained in the culture and the philosophy. He's an incredible musician, deep guy. He teaches Bhagavatam online. He's just a powerful,
Sweet, great guy.
Yeah, representation. But you were mentioning, we were talking about today, when he was just a little kid, right? He was like 7, maybe?
All the little children made a hit single called
in
Please,
Australia,
Mr.
right?
Gorbachev, Let Our Devotees Go, or
Friends
something like
go.
that. And it
Let
went
Our
to the
Friends
top of the
Go.
charts, Let Our Friends Go, because at that time, the USSR had, put devotees in prison camps, labor camps rather, had executed them just for opting into a bhakti yoga practice. See, we don't have that problem, at least here. If you choose, your spiritual path, you're free to choose your spiritual path. If you're not doing well on your spiritual path, that's your own issues. But no one's gonna, a helicopter's not gonna fly down here and execute us for chanting in the morning. And that was going on for sure in communist Soviet Union at the time. And so all these devotees, horrible stories that went down.
So this group of little kids in Australia that were Bhakti Yogi kids, they got together and they made a song. He was the lead singer, right?
Yeah, I don't know the whole story. Maybe you can pick it out of him on Sunday.
Yeah, it sounds like you have plans to be elsewhere, Raghu.
Well, we do one. Let's just tell everybody the story. We've decided that me and Kaustubha interviewing one person it gets a little too much, so we just decided one of us will do interviews from now on. So on the day,
I didn't know that was an absolute rule. Oh, okay, but
you didn't. Well, should we talk about it right now on the show?
Yeah, let's figure this out. All right, let's get into Bhagavatam.
Okay. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan. Unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam, and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome in the heart will become eradicated. In loving service to the Supreme Lord, whose praise with transcendental songs will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurunmidatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my teachers are opening my eyes with a torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet.
Reading from Canto 4, Chapter 6. Text.
I think we did
Mara's
35.
I thought I had it. Text 36. Text 36.
Oh yeah, deerskin. Remember this, Raghu?
Oh yeah. He was seated on deerskin and was practicing all forms of austerity, Lord Shiva.
Okay.
Because his body was smeared with ashes, he looked like an evening cloud. On his hair was the sign of a half moon, a symbolic representation. We should find out. I don't know the origins of the half moon. I know the origins of the Ganga on his head. Meryl, check that out.
I looked into it a little today. I got something. I'm ready for that, Raghu.
Wait, for the moon?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's my question, Kaustubha. You'll hear a lot about, Lord Shiva wearing, he's seated on deerskin, but also where he wears an animal pelt. And sometimes you'll hear of sages wearing animal pelts. And we understand like these are from ahimsa cows. That's what we call them now, or ahimsa animals that died a natural death. There's a whole backlash. There's a whole backlash now of anything fur because we've killed horrifically, trapped and killed and tortured so many animals. So, a vegan movement has, as a backlash, came back to the animal slaughter industry. But it seems like these great sages or rishis would wear animal pelts, ahimsa ones. The question is, would Kaustubha wear ahimsa fur?
Okay.
Now, some people
Well,
think
you
like
know,
it's actually quite beautiful. Fur is actually quite beautiful. I knew this guy who used to make fur jackets, not like from deerskin. What are the deer hide jackets from animals that were hit by cars? And he would collect the fur and he would tan it and skin it and tan it, and they were actually like buckskin jackets, like sort of like Daniel Boone wore. Now, some people think that's like the most beautiful natural thing you could wear. And
Mhm.
some people think that is like wearing, imagine a human carcass, wearing a human carcass. Just like if you see an animal pelt, like these hunters, they'll have like a zebra skin rug, and it's like quite horrific. Actually, it's quite beautiful, but it's horrific in
You're
the
saying
sense they
very
went out and
torn.
I'm told it is. That's why I want to answer this question. Is it horrible? Is it wonderful? The pelt is actually beautiful. Would you have a Himsa zebra rug in your, if it died a natural death? Would you have that in your house?
It's not my
Would
style.
it be a way to honor it?
Well, ethically, if it died of natural causes, I don't see an ethical issue,
Right.
right? And it is true. If you read Bhagavatam, you're going to see many of the avatars of Vishnu wore deer skin, like Parshuram wore deer skin. I believe Vamanadev wore deer skin, and as well as others. So it was like for renunciates, it was a way that they dressed. Now there's a pastime in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. You remember this one with Brahmananda Bharati?
Tell me.
Brahmananda Bharati, I believe he was kind of like a senior to, I think Sri Chaitanya saw him as like kind of a senior to him. Although Sri Chaitanya being, an avatar of Vishnu himself, or an avatar of Krishna, or Krishna himself, he was kind of the leader of the community, even though he was junior to some people. And one day, Brahmananda Bharati, this very advanced renunciate, was in the presence of Sri Chaitanya, and people were like, and Sri Chaitanya said, "Where's Brahmananda Bharati?" And then Sri Chaitanya's servant said, "He's right here. He's right in front of you." And he said, No, that cannot be Brahmananda Bharati. He's wearing a deer skin. And so he was not pleased with his wearing a deer skin. Now, why that is a little unclear to me. I did a little research into it. It may have been because because the deer skin was worn by impersonalist sannyasis, and so he didn't like it for that reason. But in any case, Brahmananda Bharati, when he said that, he was like, "Oh, he's not pleased that I'm dressed this way. This is just my own ego, I'm dressing this way for prestige, actually." Even we can, sometimes like even like for instance, like dreadlocks, like that was like just a simple way to keep your hair. It wasn't meant to be a fashion, but now people may wear it for fashion too,
It's
So
quite
for in any
fashionable.
case-
I always wanted
Yeah.
dreadlocks. Didn't
Did you?
manifest in this lifetime.
Okay.
I'm okay with it.
But
I let it go.
In any case, would I wear it? No, I don't think I would.
I think you'd look good in it.
I mean, I definitely
Ever
wouldn't wear
follow
like a
that guy
deer
Ro-
skin. Like,
Ever follow
you
that
know.
guy Rob Banks on Instagram? Do you know who that is?
No idea.
He's like an anti-fur vegan guy, and he'll like go
Okay.
where there's like a fashion show, and he'll make a whole thing, or he'll see someone with fur on the street and videotape them, and they're like, and walk up behind them. Why are you wearing fur? Why are you wearing fur? Do you know what that fur? And he was like he's incredibly annoying to make a point, and and some humiliating to make a point. And I'm just thinking, like, if he came up to you while you're wearing fur,
Well, I don't wear fur
on the street. I know, but I'm thinking if Rob Banks came up to you, you could say, "Hey, it's a Himsa." I wonder what Rob
Yeah.
Banks would say about that.
I don't know.
What do you think about?
I've
What do you think about opposing people and getting right in their face about fur?
Well, I'll say this: I'm all for activism in the right way. I'm all for standing up for important causes. I do think it's extremely cruel how they kill these animals for their fur.
Yeah,
I do think it. I definitely disapprove of that action. I don't wear fur, largely for that reason. But I've also seen some, for instance, I was on a sidewalk in New York once, and I saw that there was like a team of activists on the sidewalk. You know, there's one company, I don't even remember the name, but their coats have become very popular, and they have fur
The
collars.
polar bear, or the one of those. It's like a famous
know,
winter
it's-
coat. Everyone in New York, upstate, no one even
Yeah.
knows what's going on. But in New York,
Everyone in New
everyone's got
York's
that
wearing
exact same coat with the fur
Yeah.
rim. What's that brand?
I forget.
Canadian Goose, Canada Goose.
Yeah, something like Canada.
Yeah, that's the
something or
one.
other. So they were just, you know, you can set up on a sidewalk, and it's not long before someone wearing one of those coats comes by, and they were kind of formed like a gauntlet, and they were just like screaming at anyone that was wearing it, you know, just really super aggressive.
Yeah.
And what did I think when I saw that? Honestly, I think there's a lot better ways that you can make your point. I think, as a matter of fact, you may be turning people off to your point. And when I saw that, and I really tried to understand the hearts of the people that were doing that, I don't want to, you know, I believe it's a blend, you know, blend of genuine concern, you know, but I think we have to be real careful that we're not letting our own dentedness play into it, our own aggressiveness, our own hatred, you know, play into it. So it seemed to me ineffective, you know, misguided way of approaching it. I'm all for people approaching it. I'm all for people speaking up about it. I'm all for people, you know, making a stand. But I think we do have to be careful about how we do it. You really have to search your own heart, you know, to try to understand where you're at. Once when it was brought up, someone had come up with the idea of like blowing up like a slaughterhouse.
That's an idea for you.
Yeah, and Srila Prabhupada, his point was, I forget exactly how he phrased it, but he said, like, more or less the point that he made was the kind of hatred that goes into creating, you know, the kind of disregard for life that goes into creating the slaughterhouse is similar. You know, this is similar to that. I
Right.
saw it that way.
Got to end the chain of hate.
Got to end the chain of hate. Okay.
Yeah.
But Lord, you know, I believe that part of the reasons why, you know, imagine you are like a renunciate, forced, wandering soul, you know, and it gets cold. And so naturally the warm stuff to wear are these pelts, you know, and the animals live out there and they die out there. And so, you know, someone prepares those pelts and it's a natural thing to wear for them. I totally get that. Totally understand it. No problem with it. You know,
we've just created such an artificial world right now that it has this type of backlash. That like the fur industry is so disgusting, that the meat industry is so disgusting that there's just the pendulum's just swinging the other way now.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So in any case, but I believe part of the reason why they had these pelts too, it says here it was seated on a deerskin, and I believe that part of the reason for that may have been to keep snakes away when you're meditating out in the forest. Bhagavad Gita mentions you put down a deer skin, you put a kusha grass on top of that, and you sit and do your meditation.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's text 37. He was seated on a straw mattress. That's probably the kusha mat, a straw mattress.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking to all present, including the great sage Narada, to whom he specifically spoke about the absolute truth. His
Great
left leg was
souls.
placed on his right thigh. Now he's doing some yoga poses here. And his left leg was placed on his left thigh. That's the posture called, here it says Virasana. We call it Padmasana, right?
His left hand was placed on his left thigh.
Oh, okay. In his right hand, he held Rudraksha beads, and his finger was in the mode of argument.
Like making a point, right?
Yeah.
Prabhupada writes, the sitting posture described herein is called Virasana, according to the system of Ashtanga Yoga performances. In the performance of yoga, there are 8 divisions, such as Yama and Niyama, controlling, following the rules and regulations, and then the sitting postures, etc. Besides Virasana, there are other sitting postures such as Padmasana and Siddhasana. Practice of these asanas without elevating oneself to the position of realizing the Supersoul Vishnu is not the perfectional stage of yoga. Lord Shiva is called Yogeshvara, the master of all yogis, and Krishna is called Yogeshvara. Yogeshvara indicates that no one can surpass the yoga practice of Lord Shiva, and Yogeshvara indicates that no one can surpass the yogic perfection of Krishna. Well, there's a little info.
By the way, just a little info on Rudraksha beads here.
Oh yeah, okay.
Rudraksha refers to it's called a stone fruit, the dried stones of which are used as prayer beads, okay, by Hindus and Buddhists, mainly, Shaivites, and also Sikhs. When they are ripe, the Rudraksha stones are covered by an inedible blue outer fruit. So they are sometimes called blueberry beads. Interesting. You ever see a Rudraksha when they have that blue on the outside?
Oh no, that I haven't seen.
It's very cool. And it says stones are associated with the Hindu deity Shiva, are commonly worn for protection and chanting. The stones are primarily sourced from India. There was a good. Okay, here's what I wanted: the etymology. Rudraksha is a Sanskrit compound word considering of Rudra. What does Rudra mean? And Aksha.
Lord Shiva.
Okay.
Aksha means eyes, right?
Eyes of Rudra.
The eyes of Rudra. The Rudra Aksha. The eyes of Rudra. The eyes of Shiva. Anyway, thought you'd enjoy that squirrel.
Thank you.
Today is National Squirrel Appreciation Day.
Oh, that's right. Hold it. Let's not make
Who
too
made
much
that
of a squirrel out of it.
The Wisdom of the Sages community?
Could be.
Maybe.
Voted on.
Okay.
All right. Bring me back.
Text
Mary.
39.
All the sages and the demigods, headed by Indra, offered their respectful obeisances unto Lord Shiva with folded hands. Lord Shiva was dressed in saffron garments and absorbed in trance, thus appearing to be the foremost of all sages. Lord Shiva's lotus feet were worshipped by both the demigods and the demons, but still, in spite of his exalted position, as soon as he saw Lord Brahma was there among all the other demigods, he immediately stood up and offered him respect by bowing down and touching his lotus feet, just as Vamanadev offered his respectful obeisances to Kashyapa Muni.
Why is that analogy used?
Tell me.
Well, it would seem because Vamanadev is Krishna himself, but he offers respects to Kasyapa Muni. Why? Because it's his father. Right? So even though in one sense he's a superior being, like Lord Shiva is like, in one sense he's beyond Lord Brahma, but he's honoring Lord Brahma. It's his father. He follows the etiquette.
Alrighty. All the sages who were sitting with Lord Shiva, such as Narada and the others, all offered respectful obeisances to Lord Brahma. After being so worshipped, Lord Brahma, smiling, began to speak to Lord Shiva. Brahma said,
"This is nice, right? Because Brahma, he didn't commit the offense, but he's going there and he's speaking on behalf of everyone. He's really getting involved. He's rolling up his sleeves. He's getting into it, right?"
Yeah, my dear Lord Shiva, I know that you are the controller of the entire material manifestation, the combination, father and mother of the cosmic manifestation, and the supreme Brahman beyond the cosmic manifestation as well. I know you in that way. My dear Lord, you create this cosmic manifestation to maintain it and annihilate it by your expansion of your personality, exactly as a spider creates, maintains, and winds up its web. We like that analogy. You want to say it, Kaustubha? The spider analogy?
Yeah. Well, and there's one thing that could be a little confusing here and in the next couple of verses. It sounds almost like it's speaking about Lord Vishnu, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Earlier in Bhagavatam, we heard about how Lord Vishnu, he creates, maintains, and ultimately winds up the material world. And the analogy of the spider is given because the spider when it builds its web, it comes from within its own body. It doesn't go like a bird will gather things from outside to create its own nest. The spider, it doesn't have to grab anything from outside. It all comes from within. It creates this this web with its own internal energy, in a sense, maintains it, and then it also wraps up that web by taking it back within. So this universe is the energy from within Lord Vishnu. He creates it, he maintains it, he withdraws it. Now here we're hearing the same thing about Lord Shiva, but I think it's because it's such a subtle thing, and I mentioned a few days back that it's said that Shiva Tattva, right? Understanding the category of Lord Shiva, who he is, it's a very difficult, subtle thing to grasp. But it's like he is Lord Vishnu, but just slightly transformed.
Slightly different. Sort of like milk is yogurt, but it's not yogurt whatsoever. But it's exactly
Right.
the same thing as yogurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's Lord Shiva.
And I think we missed did you miss the point? Or did I just miss the point that the web is created? Everyone's getting snagged in that web, but the spider can walk on that web without being
Oh yeah. That's a nice
implicated
point, too.
in its stickiness.
Right.
My dear Lord, your lordship has introduced the system of yajna, or sacrifice, through the agency of daksha. And thus, one may derive the benefits of religious rituals or religious activities and economic development. Under your regulative principles, the institution of the 4 varnas and ashrams is respected. The brahmanas therefore vow to follow this system strictly. O most auspicious Lord, you have ordained the heavenly planets, the spiritual Vaikuntha planets, and the impersonal Brahman sphere as the respective destinations of the performers of auspicious activities. Similarly, for others who are miscreants, you have destined different kinds of hellish planets, which are horrible and ghastly. Yet sometimes it is found that their destinations are just the opposite. It is very difficult to ascertain the cause of this.
Okay. What is he saying here? He's saying something. It's somewhat direct, but just a little bit indirect. He started off in text 44. He's saying, "Dear Lord Shiva, your lordship has introduced the system of sacrifices through the agency of who? Daksha." Right? In other words, like you have concern for order in social life, a type of order that helps one develop their spiritual life. And Daksha is a person who's played that role in society, right? He's been a person that stands up and speaks for the system of sacrifices, recognizing that whatever we get in life is a blessing that's being provided by the devas. There must be some reciprocation and recognition and appreciation of that. Daksha was playing an important role. You just cut his head off. you know? So he's pointing that out. And then in this verse he's saying, and there's heavenly planets. This is giving us an idea of the Vedic cosmology, where it's saying that people that fully develop their spiritual life in bhakti and their devotional love, they go to the Vaikuntha planets, the spiritual world, right? And then there's the impersonal Brahman for people who just want relief from material suffering and practice detachment. They go there. And there's also the heavenly planets for people who are like following the Vedic rules, but in a materialistic way. This is what that whole 4 series of classes I just gave for our Patreon members, if they want to check them out, how Bhagavatam clarifies everything. So it's saying, and then there's also for people that haven't followed the Vedas, right? If I follow the Vedas for materialistic purposes, I go to the heavens, come back down, right? If I follow the Vedic teachings for detachment, then I go to the Brahmajyoti, eventually come back down. If I follow the teachings for bhakti, I go to the spiritual world. I never come down. And there are people that aren't following the Vedic teachings at all. They're likely creating bad karma. Then they have to suffer in some of these inauspicious places. But then Brahma says, yet sometimes it is found that their destinations are just the opposite. It is very difficult to ascertain the cause of this.
What does it mean by that?
He's saying Daksha was following all the rules, right? He should be going to the heavens. You just cut his head off. It's like you're putting him through hell. Let's think about it. Let's slow down. Let's reconsider what's going on here. It's a subtle way of, he's such a respectable personality. He doesn't want to just come and say, hey, you're wrong. What you did was wrong.
Right.
But he's just kind of saying, let's open.
You ever wonder, like, what it'd be like just not to stay there, not to want to be there, but just to visit for an afternoon, one of the higher planets, the heavenly planets?
Must be fascinating. I mean, I wouldn't feel comfortable going to like the heavenly planets of enjoyment, because I would just be like, overwhelmed by the whole thing. I know it would just wipe out any kind of spiritual thought I had. And I'd be
it might
totally
be
immersed in.
Yeah, intense pleasure. It might be sort of like taking a heavy intoxicant, where people get so addicted to it, then you can't get out of it and get lost in it.
I've had some interesting dreams where I think some of that, I witnessed some of that kind of stuff,
You went to a heavenly planet in your dream?
Well, not exactly, but I don't want to go into the details.
I can imagine.
Too much of it.
I can imagine that dream.
I don't want to make too much.
Had a few of those dreams too, Kaustubha.
But what I got was the point of the dream was that this is how I interpreted my own dream, where I got a glimpse of like heavenly pleasures, was like how quickly I could be overwhelmed, like how weak I am. Like I should never be proud like I'm a controlled yogi, because
Right.
the material energy is so powerful. I'm hardly getting a taste of the power of the material energy, how bewildering it can be. And I really felt like I got a message like you have to desperately hold on to the great souls and to the mercy of God to say, I'm weak. I'm this insignificant being. Your material energy is so powerful. I'm not some powerful yogi that can overcome. And Bhagavatam teaches us that too. We'll see even Lord Shiva at one point becomes bewildered by Krishna's energy, right? So
Sure.
we don't consider ourselves like super strong renunciate yogis that are mastering our senses, and we're like, any help in that mastery is by God's grace. We need the blessings for it. So but what would be fascinating right now is to go to those higher planets where like the sages dwell.
Yeah.
They're not planets so much of material enjoyment. They're places of joy for sure, but it's not like a sense gratification that they're searching, but they're finding like inner contentment on these like very high planets. That would be a very fascinating place to go.
All right, let's stop off on the way up. On the way up.
Let's hope we go up.
Oh man,
Okay,
I'm looking at the Zoom screen. I see Erica and Sega. They're already on their flight or getting ready for their flight. Miss you guys
there's
already.
Erica. Goodbye, Erica.
Yeah.
And goodbye, Sega. Yeah, I got the chance to say goodbye to Sega last night. I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to Erica and to everybody that I didn't get a chance to say final goodbye to. It was so nice to be with you.
Oh man. All right. I was about to tell that story. I don't know if I'm allowed to about that story, but the interesting person I was having dinner with last night. I don't know if I'm allowed to
I
tell
don't
that
think you're
story.
allowed to tell that story, Erica.
I am or not allowed?
I think you should find out whether you're allowed before you share it.
It's such a good story.
Although, I
and
mean,
it's
maybe
it's a
nobody
God
knows who it
story,
is.
too, man. He was
It's a big
godly
squirrel.
directed, man. It's a massive squirrel, but it's a spiritual squirrel.
Find out today if you can share that story later.
Okay, I could change the names to protect the innocent.
Well, find out.
Okay, all right. I got a story
But,
for you, man. Wait till you guys hear this story. All right.
Well, Raghunath, I'm going to reel in this squirrel right now because we're at a great
Right, my
part
dear
of
Lord,
it.
the devotees who have fully dedicated their lives unto your lotus feet certainly observe your presence as Paramatma in each and every being. And as such, they do not differentiate between one living being and another. Such persons treat all living entities equally. They never become overwhelmed by anger like animals who see nothing without differentiation.
It's
Persons who
really-
observe.
I really find it fascinating that Brahma, he's Lord Brahma. In one sense, he's the father of Lord Shiva, right? So he could claim seniority. He could, I'm the creator of the material universe. He's got a big time status. He's talking to his own son, but he's showing him such respect. And let's consider this, right? Like in our own human dealings, right? The wisdom in how he's dealing. He's sitting here with a bunch of people that just totally screwed up and disrespected Lord Shiva. He didn't. He wasn't involved at all. And he's coming in here and he's helping them. And when he's speaking to Lord Shiva, he's showing him a type of respect. And in a way, he's showing everyone else an example too, right? All these people who didn't understand who Lord Shiva was and didn't respect him, in the way that he's dealing with him, he's showing him because he's saying, Lord Shiva, I want you to reconsider what happened with Daksha. I want you to see if you can make, so like here he's saying like, great souls like you, they never act out of anger, right? They never, he just killed Daksha. So it's just a subtle way. Everything that he's saying in subtle and indirect ways. He's making his point, but he's doing it without insulting Lord Shiva, without correcting him, without saying you're wrong. He's walking a fine line. And I've seen great souls can do this. Because they're so sensitive, because they're not wrapped up in thought of just their own experience, but they're quite empathetic and they can understand the emotions and the minds of others, that they can say things in such a way where most people would have been abrasive. He's saying it in a way that's so soft and so respectful. I think it's really something to
All right.
see.
Text 47. Persons who observe everything with differentiation, who are simply attached to fruitive activities, who are mean-minded. I like that word, mean-minded. Who are always pained to see the flourishing condition of others, right? You see someone who's flourishing and you're like, oh, crap, why them? And who thus gives distress to them by uttering harsh and piercing words, have already been killed by providence. Thus, there's no need for them to be killed, again, by an exalted personality like you. You know, you have to really understand deeply that those who are being cruel, they're actually in pain. Cruel people suffer tremendously because they suffer within their head on a regular basis. It's not like they're feeling good about life.
Right. Yeah.
We don't have to be the administrators. We don't have to be the administrators of karma here. They're going to get what's coming to them.
You know, so yeah, he's talking about Daksha. He's saying, you went and cut his head off. You know, it's interesting, right? Because like Daksha seems to be momentarily like, even though his head is off, he's not quite dead yet. You know, he's like, it's still like up in the air what his future will be.
Right.
And so he's saying, you know, persons who observe everything with differentiation. In other words, they have none of that samadarshana, that equal vision. You know, seeing the equality of every living being on the spiritual level. They're seeing everything based on externals. Who are simply attached to fruitive activities. They just do things to get. Even he was a great religious man. There was always a motive behind it, right? Daksha. Yeah. Mean-minded.
Mean-minded. Okay. My dear Lord.
Hold on. Do we need to rush on, or can we?
No, we got all the time.
Just slow it down, Raghu. Just slow it down, because Prabhupada writes some interesting stuff. But he's saying he's pointing out where Daksha was at, right? He was on one hand a very respectable religious personality, but that real inner stuff, he was pained to see the flourishing of Lord Shiva. He couldn't tolerate it, and and he's saying that they are already killed. You know, they use piercing words, they utter harsh words. That's what Daksha did to Shiva, right? He did that to you, but try to understand. He's already killed, right? It's like you don't need to kill him. He's already in a suffering condition. And that's the way wise people think, and that's the way wise people see. Now, this is what Prabhupada shares in the commentary. Persons who are materialistic and always engaged in fruitive activities, always a motive there, for material profit, cannot endure seeing the flourishing life of others. Except for a few persons in Krishna consciousness, this entire world is full of such envious persons who are perpetually full of anxieties, because they are attached to the material body and are without self-realization. It's a fact, right? We can all look into our own hearts and see like how painful it is sometimes for us to see other people flourish.
Sure. It's not being joyful when someone else is joyful. And if someone's in pain, feeling a little bit better than them. I sort of felt the same. I sort of felt like, you know, it's cold back home. Oh, poor them. I did feel a little bit. That's a bad way to feel. That's bad. I should feel, oh my God, it's so cold. They must be in pain. But instead I was feeling a little righteous. Here. I wish they could be here. Yeah. That's a sign. Red flags went off in my head. And that's what should happen. We know we are off our spiritual track when someone's in pain and I'm gloating, or when people are feeling great fortune and I'm feeling like, oh, unfair, should have been me. That's a problem.
We gotta root that out, right?
And so the Vaishnav is para dukkha dukhi, right?
Well, hold it, Raghunath. Were you thinking like Prabhupada, or did you just read that?
I just read it. I just read it. But the idea is that when a person's in pain, we empathize with their pain. We put ourselves in their shoes. And when they feel their joy, we say, you know what? Good for you. You deserve that. Even if I wanted that position and then they got the position, I take a deep breath. I say, you know what? Good for you. I'm happy for you. May you flourish even more. It's a great way to destroy. If you have envy for another person, pray for their success. Pray for their good fortune. And it is like flipping the whole thing on its back. You can't
Yes, yeah.
remain envious for a person while you're praying for their good fortune and success. But it immediately relinquishes envy from your mind.
That's a great little practice you just shared, Raghunath.
Yeah. Oh, I've been practicing it.
And it
There's
goes
some
back
people
to
in my
our
life
nugget.
that are driving me crazy.
Okay.
And I've been praying for them, praying for their good fortune and success. And may
And
they
it-
get what they want and blah, blah, blah.
And again, the point is if that someone's coming at you aggressively, mean-minded, it means that we should interpret that as immediately our response should be sympathy for them. Oh my God, they must really be suffering if they're coming after me like that.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
So Prabhupada writes, he says, thus Lord Shiva, as a self-realized Vaishnava, was advised not to kill Daksha. The Vaishnava is described as para, dukkha, dukhi, because although they are never distressed in any condition of life, they are distressed to see others in distressed condition. There you go.
Oh, come on, you birds. Do you hear that?
Not much.
Okay, forget it. Then that must have sounded like a crazy outburst. It wasn't.
Come on, you birds.
Kaustubha, here's the deal.
Yes.
Maybe my personality, it's like when someone's being a jerk, I was like, I'd like to give them some karma right now for their behavior. And it's just not the way we behave as Vaishnavas. We don't have to give people, we are not the administrators of karma. Leave that up to God. We are in training to be great transcendentalists, and therefore we learn tolerance, we learn love, and we learn compassion. And in this case, we learn empathy. We try to step into other people's shoes, see what they're going through. Tolerance, compassion, love, those are big ones for us. We don't have to become the administrators of their karma. It'll work itself out. It'll work itself out. Don't sweat it.
You got that one, Mara? That was a great point. You
Yep.
noting that? We are not the administrators of karma. Don't have to be.
We don't.
But what do we want to be the administrators of? And is administrators the right?
Distributors of prasad. We want to be the distributors of sacred food offered with love.
Yeah.
How about that?
Okay. Compassion, kindness, mercy, that kind of thing.
Tolerance, compassion,
Tolerance. Yeah.
love.
Love. It's
All
all
right.
about love. Text 48.
Where are we, Mira?
Oh, you want to hold? We'll hold 48 for the next time. We're pretty much out of time.
What's that? We'll hold it till next time. Is that what you just
Yeah,
said?
Yeah, takeaways.
Oh, it's time.
takeaways.
All right.
Takeaways.
Takeaways. Cut off the chain of hate.
Cut off the chain. Hey.
Project love to the center. Put on the Vishnu goggles of love.
The Vishnu goggles of love.
We're the Vishnu goggles of love. From
It's like a psychedelic band from London.
exactly. That would be cool. Like we could do it, Rogan. We could wear those big platform shoes.
Bell
like
bottom,
far out
striped
Elton
bell
John.
bottoms.
Yeah, far
You
Elton
have
John
like
kind
a
of
big
glasses.
top hat on, but it's like velvet blue.
We're Vishnu goggles of love.
Follow the etiquette no matter who we are.
We follow the etiquette, straight edge from Toronto.
We,
That's such a straight edge band. Follow the etiquette.
we need God's grace and blessings, not to be bewildered by material energy.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Brahma sets the example for how to relate to great souls.
He sure does.
We don't have to be the administrators of karma.
Mhm.
Pray for the good fortune of those you envy. And we're
Right.
transcendentalists in training, cultivating tolerance, compassion, and love.
Yeah. Well, all right. That was like a nugget waterfall.
It was.
All right, everybody. That's great. Now, Kaustubha, of course, is moving a little slow here
Sorry, a little
today,
slow
getting the
on the
music
music.
on.
You know
Tomorrow's
the,
Q&A day. We're going to 8:00 tomorrow, you guys. 8:00. You
8
get to
o'clock
sleep
tomorrow.
in. Sleep in Saturday. Bring your kids. There's Cam Finn's got his kids on his lap today. Thanks everybody joining us on Zoom. Jimmy James got the kid there, or his wife. I can't tell from the picture. You married to that kid? Nope, I don't think so. He's got his young wife. That's inappropriate to say. I take that back. Can I undo that? Hare Krishna. So many ways. Thanks everybody for joining us. Hey, we're doing an experiment to see. Now, this is not a competition out there, guys, but we are number 2 on the Hinduism podcast. If you go to Apple Podcasts.
Okay.
And it's not a competition. Remember, life is not a competition, but we're trying to kick Ram Dass off the number 1 throne. Okay?
Bro, come on.
That's horrible. Who would say such a thing? I love Ram Dass. I do. But I want everybody to go to Apple Podcasts right now and write give a 5-star review if you haven't done that. Apple Podcasts. You can even like Ram Dass's if you haven't liked that. Like that, leave a comment there. But anyway, go there, and we're just trying to play around with what's it called? Analytics. That's the word. Analytics, and see how can get the Bhagavatam more in the forefront of people's mind. Hey, it's Friday. You know what that means? It's Tell a Friend Friday. You got some friends sitting on the spiritual fence. Send them a snap. What do they call it? A screenshot of Wisdom of the Sages, or send them a link. And let's spread this message of transcendental love throughout the universe to everybody that we know and love, everybody in our universe. And in this way, by us changing, the world changes. Extend a hand as someone's extended a hand out to you. Thanks for joining us, everybody. And thanks for the Wisdom of the Sages retreat, people. Loving you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Woo, you.
There they are.